Oh, good. Okay. So I'm live on Facebook and YouTube. Okay. I'm just waiting for people to turn up, and then we'll get going. Okay. By the way, while we're waiting for people to turn up, I'd love to know where you're from. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. So where are you from? You know, I sold one of my sewing machines today. I had 3 of them. One was an overlocker. That's the one I sold. And it was weird. I've had it for so many years. I almost grieved selling it. Isn't that weird? It's just an inanimate object. But yeah, it was like a grieving process. I look after everything. So yeah, just because I look after everything so well. Central Texas. Hi, Middleton, Tennessee. Did I get that right? Middle Tennessee. Oh, Middleton. I went Middleton. It's Middle Tennessee. Sorry about that. That's funny. Okay. Just asking people where you're from. Just out of curiosity. I would say mostly Americans, and most of my clients are American. So I know a lot about the States. Southern California. Hi, Susie. Redmond, Washington. I think I've been there. So you're near me. So excited to be here. I'm excited to have you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so let's get going with our questions, our Q&A. I'll introduce, sorry, I just got a siren going by. I live downtown. So anyway, my name is Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you look on the link above, you'll see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, and you can look into coaching. There's a wait list for coaching. If I'm not answering your messages about coaching, it's just because I don't have any spots open. So I'll get to it. I'm hoping to let a couple of people in tonight, so that'd be good. It just depends on the age. Melbourne, Australia. My son was born in Sydney. My daughter was born in Queensland, or in Brisbane. Okay, so questions. This is D. Silva. You've been here many times. Welcome back. It's on YouTube. How do I know if my 2.7-year-old toddler is having a tantrum or just being crying sook? Is that the same, meltdown versus tantrum? I treat them all the same. Meltdown, tantrum, fit, scene. They're sort of just a loss of control at not getting their own way. But you got to make sure that you're meeting their needs and managing their wants. If they're having a tantrum because they're sick or hungry or tired, that's different. You cater to that. But if they're doing it just because they didn't get the toy they wanted that they weren't supposed to have, that's different. You just kind of ignore that. Don't get caught up in analyzing it. Just deal with it. It's all the same kind of stuff. I have just got a little bug here. I have a 7-year-old that speaks strongly in controlling situations. Huh? What does that mean? What does that mean? Bossy boots, you mean? You got a bossy 7-year-old? I don't know what to answer with. I don't quite know what you mean. Are they just a leader, or are they a pain in the butt bossy? I don't know what you mean by that. Could be a good thing or not so good thing. So anyway, you might want to look into my boot camp course. It teaches you how to be a leader. So it raises kids with self-respect and respecting others. You can look into that. It's in the link above. You need coaching, please. You can apply for coaching. If you're in crisis, and now crisis is not that you have a 2-year-old having tantrums. I get that all the time. But crisis means life and death, horrible, awful stuff, abuse, or a child who's just about to get kicked out of school, teenagers, pregnant, stuff like that. That's crisis work. So let me know. And I always put you first. If you're crisis, I always put you first. So, but because I keep saying that, of course, sometimes I'll end up, my whole roster is full of crisis work. I try not to do that because that's hard for me. Because I have to, I always say I put in 110% when I'm doing with every single client, but crisis work, it's more like 150 because I can't get it wrong, right? I have to be really careful. 5-year-old boy being scared at night for monsters. Okay, here's the thing. My kids both went through that, and I told them, I said, look, monsters are terrified of me because I know how to deal with monsters. So I'm going to check in every closet, every drawer, under your bed, behind every bookcase. I'm going to check. And as soon as they see me coming, they're taken off and they never come back. They just know I live here. So I just did that with my kids, and they believed me because I was already a really strong leader. So when I said something, they kind of went, oh, okay. So yeah. I'm a leader and she's trying to take over leadership. If you're a leader, they don't do that. Okay. That means she wants your position. They don't take a leader's position. You might be strong, but you're not quite a leader. A leader is just a little bit extra. So you might want to look into that. I'm wondering what you might be missing because they don't take over leadership. I'll tell you why. I got a million examples. But anyway, my son was 15 years old and he wanted to rebel. He was one of those, he just wanted to rebel because all his friends are rebelling against their parents. And he came home one day and he was kind of mad at me. He's 15. And he says, you've been a really difficult mom. And I said, I was shocked. I thought it was great. And I said, why? And he says, because I could never rebel. You're too reasonable and easy to talk to. You see, a leader is not that authority. They don't try and take over with a leader. They try and take over with an authority. Okay. I'm not an authority. I'm a leader. That means I know how to give respect to get it. And there's no rebellion. There's no taking over. It's just not like that. There's no power struggles. It's just very much a feeling of they had a voice. I had a voice. It was mutual. But I was definitely in charge. I was mom, but it's just different. So yeah, I'm suggesting you're the authority. They will try and take over with the authority for sure. They'll rebel against the authority. There's nothing to rebel against with a leader. There's nothing to try and take over. I have a very defiant 7-year-old. He escalates even when I'm calm. We tried some spankings, but didn't seem to work much. We have started having him clean parts of the house, vacuum, wipe down walls, towards we come at it from a Christian perspective. And he eventually goes, escalates even when I'm calm. I don't know what's going on there, to be honest. I don't know about all this hard labor stuff to come at that. Does he feel he has a voice? Are you a good listener? Maybe he doesn't feel heard. Maybe he feels there's a sense of injustices in the house. Is that injustices or I think it's injustices. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Check out the boot camp course. It might be a good fit for you. Yeah, I don't know about that hard labor to deal with that. I'm not sure. It doesn't sound like something I do. I don't quite know where you're coming from here. Okay. 22-month-old doesn't want to sleep in his crib, falls asleep only with me, exhausting. Any advice, please? Check out he's not quite 2 yet. He's in a crib. That's a little bit different. When you say he doesn't want to, what does that have to do with anything? Like, does he want to drive a car and you let him do that? Like, just because they want something, you meet their needs and manage their wants. That's a want. So you can manage that. Just let him sleep in his crib. Like, I don't understand why you're taking him out. My kids, when did they go from a crib to a bed? It's when they first flopped out onto the floor, like a fish, and they're flopping on the floor. That was when I dismantled their crib, put it all away, and just put the mattress on the floor with pillows around it. And when they got up, I just kept walking them back to bed. It's a whole process. He's not quite 2 yet, though. I do have a bedtime battles course, but that starts at 2. He's only 22 months old. That starts at 24 months. We do talk a lot about things. Is that the 7-year-old who's escalating? I don't know why he's escalating. You shouldn't be doing that. Like at 7. When you're a really good leader, in other words, they feel that you know how to take care of things. They feel safe. They don't tend to, their emotions are pretty chill. They don't tend to get really upset or really sad. They just, I don't know. So I don't know what's going on. I'd have to assess the situation. If you want to work with me, you'd have to look into coaching, or you might just want to check out the boot camp course. How do I teach my child not to climb on things? She's 22 months old. Yeah, there's 4 things they're born to do. They're either going to do them or they're never going to do them. One is climbing, one is running, one is hitting, and one is tantrums. Climbing is difficult because they're in the house, but what you do is childproof as much as possible and put bells and or alarms on things that you can't childproof. Okay, and every time they go on there, you say no and you remove them. It's going to take a lot, though. And then distract them, get them doing something else that, and if they're climbers, they're often very active kids. Get them one of those little mini trampolines with the bar across the top. Give them something else to do other than climb where they shouldn't be climbing. A while ago, I had a client who said they almost called the police. They were looking for I think it was an 18-month-old little girl, and they couldn't find her anywhere. And the mom was home. She was panicking. She thought someone had broken into the house, kidnapped her child, and then locked behind them. It was that bad. She could not find her child in the house. Anyway, then she was in the kitchen. She was just about to phone the police, and she heard giggling. She looked up. Her 18-month-old little girl had climbed to the top of the fridge, got on the drawers. Got the toe. Even though they had childproofing, she put her little toes on the drawers, got up on the counter, then used the bread machine that was beside the fridge, got up there, and then got on top of the fridge. So yeah, it's frightening. How do you help your child if he feels embarrassed often about doing things wrong or not perfect? That's the perfectionist. Perfectionism is so it's usually insecurity based, right? Anyone who won't do anything because they has to be perfect. It's all low self-esteem, So yeah, work on your child's self-esteem. That's what you do. And also, do you make a big deal out of winning? And do you really strive? Oh, maybe you'll get A's next time. See, I never talked like that with my kids. They did very well, but I never discussed it like that. I just said, oh, way to go. Did you do your best? That's great. But yeah, maybe you put too much emphasis on winning. And like I always said to my kids, the road to success is paved with failures. If you're not failing as you're going along in life, you're not trying hard enough, because the change requires learning and getting out of your comfort zone. Okay, so that means failing. There's only shame in not trying. There's no shame in failing. So yeah, start talking like that with your kid. Teenagers, oh good, my favorite age. What if I'm just finding you when I have a 16-year-old and 18-year-old home from college and I still don't know? Okay, so yeah, I specialize in teenagers. Now it's a real slow burn. You're never going to get exactly where you want to be, okay, especially with an 18-year-old. Yeah, certainly not overnight. But I would work on your relationship with your teenagers first. They usually don't want to have a lot to do with you. They just want to talk to their friends, blah, blah, blah. But there's things that we can do. We often don't use the behavior board, by the way, with teenagers. It's all about connecting with them in their world, showing them respect. You don't sweat the small stuff, okay? I'm going to read out my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. You can hire me, but I always say the results are negligible with teenagers, like especially at that age, because it's just challenging. And yet they're my favorite age. I specialize in teenagers. But I can see why a lot of people, I know that a lot of coaches won't work with parents of teenagers. I understand why. It's challenging. Anyway. Okay, these are my top 3 tips for parenting teens. Number 1, listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with, or they will shut you out. By the way, they already know your advice, so don't even bother giving it. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything. It goes something like this. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? It's not a blanket statement. You don't do it with everything, but do it with as much as possible. It's just showing respect, okay? In other words, I'm willing to give to get, right? Give and give, reciprocity. You're building reciprocity. Okay. Number 3 is don't sweat the small stuff. If they do something stupid and it's not a big deal, just say, well, that was stupid. Do you want to hear what I did when I was your age, or do you want to hear what I did yesterday? And laugh it off. It's okay to not be perfect. I think a lot of parents are harder on their kids than they are on themselves. They'll speed and get tickets, park and get tickets. They'll do stuff like that, but then their kids do something and they have a fit. So think about it. Is what they're doing that big a deal? If it is, you'll probably want to hire me. Okay. What's the call-in number? Oh, I don't have a call-in number. This is just a YouTube video, and I'm also on Facebook. So I'm just answering questions right here. I never let anyone in on these lives, by the way. I only did it once a couple of years ago, and they started talking about their business. In that live, I had thousands of people in that live. It was on TikTok. And they just started talking about their business. I was new at it. I didn't know what I was doing. So sure, you can come in. So yeah. Okay. Okay, that's sort of similar to what I was just talking about. This is from Chris. I don't know the name. It's on YouTube. They ask, what do you do about a 5-year-old that always has a negative poor me attitude with losing games or with any situation that is not in his favor? That is usually a learned behavior. Children are not born to be poor sports. Okay. My mother always raved about my brother and I. She always said, you're such good sports. My mother was a real gamer. She loved gaming. Like it was usually cards. Like I grew up playing crib, poker, we played a lot of cards and crib. Anyway, and she never focused on the winning. She said, you play to win, but it doesn't matter if you win, if that makes any sense. Just do your best. So she said, I'd rather lose and play well than win by luck. So, I'm suggesting maybe you're emphasizing winning rather than just having fun and playing well. So perhaps, even when I was a little kid, I thought, why does mom keep going on about us being such good sports? Like I didn't understand what a poor sport was. Like I thought, why would you care if you win? Like, and then I remember I saw a friend once, I wasn't in the game, but I saw them playing games and the kid flipped the whole board over when they lost. I thought, oh, that's a poor sport. Oh, I get it now. How do I get my 11-month-old to stop wanting to be picked up all the time? Just say, you're all right, and then look busy doing something like dishes. But make sure you're meeting their needs. Like, do they need to be picked up, more than other kids? Some of them do. Maybe get one of those sacks. You can throw them on your back or something. Like the ladies in the rice fields get, so some of them, I always say with babies, meet their needs and meet their wants. But if you don't always have time to pick them up, right? Say, you're okay, and then give them something to do, and then look like you're just sort of busy, you're distracted. Don't look at them and do a lot of this. You're okay, mommy can't pick you up right now. That builds the tension. It makes them more upset. Say, you're all right. Here, look at this. Wow. Okay, I'm going to do the dishes now. So yeah. Is it going to work? Maybe not, but. Okay, I've been using the behavior chart, which is working well. This is Becca Fraser on, where am I? Facebook. But what do you do when they have already used their screen? Sorry, it glitched. Ah, sugar. I hit see more, but it didn't work. Okay, I'll read it again. Becca Fraser asks, I've been using the behavior board, which is working well, but what do you do? And the behavior board's free in the link above, by the way. What do you do when they have already used their screen time for the day and you get up to the media blackout consequence, but they don't have any left for that day? Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, then just say it starts 24 hours starting tomorrow or whatever. So just start tomorrow. It's 20. So if they've already had screen time for that night, say, tomorrow morning, we have 24 hours screen time, but then it would work out 24 hours, just start it. It's 24 hours of blackout. So it's going to hit into that daily screen time anyway. Am I right? Does that make sense? I can't do math, but that's not even math. That's just common sense. If it's 24 hours, it's still going to kick into that next day's screen time anyway. I have a 3.5-year-old that has picked up a curse word and I can't get her to stop. Put down no bad words and explain what that is. You don't have to say it, but say that word, the one that we keep telling you not to say. Put no bad words on the behavior board, and every time she says that bad word, then there's a consequence. Check out the behavior board. It's completely free in the link above. It'll explain how to do this. So I'm moving around a lot. My back's killing me today, so. I should probably get one of those, is it called ergonomic chairs? I just have a little wicker, like a pretty chair, because my office is in my living room. But I refuse to get one of those big back support things in my living room. I just don't want it. I do have a separate room I could use as an office, but I like being here. Anyway, so yeah, that's why I'm always wiggling around. It's not a very comfortable chair. How do you know if they are having a tantrum because they have a need to be met, but they can't communicate it well? Okay. You usually know if they're having a tantrum. It's usually if they're hungry, tired, sick, cold, hot, you can usually figure that out. And if you've just taken a toy away, there's something away that they shouldn't have, then you know that that's a tantrum, right? And they can't communicate. You're just going to have to invest. You're just going to have to be a detective and figure that out. So yeah, usually a tantrum is usually when you're around. So you're usually in on the start of it. So you usually know what caused it, right? So yeah. Like if it's in the middle of the night and they have a fever, chances are it's just that they are sick, right? How do you deal with a 2-year-old having a transition at a restaurant? He's been doing this since I don't know what you mean by having a transition. You mean a tantrum? Tantrum restaurant? I don't know what you mean. Let's say you're talking about a tantrum. So how do you deal with a tantrum in a restaurant? You don't put other diners through that. You pick up your child, take them out in the parking lot, and then stand there filing your nails while they're having a tantrum. Let them work it out on their own. You never interrupt a tantrum. That's their business. Let their brain process going into it, having it, and getting themselves out of it. If you interrupt that process, they're never going to learn. Yeah, you want them to learn how to self-regulate. If you interrupt it, you're regulating. It doesn't work anyway. So tantrum, yeah. There's no way I'd put other diners through that. No way. Yeah, take them out in the parking lot. And if you've got a couple of kids with you, just say, pack it up. Can we please have a doggy bag? We're out of here. What do I do with picky eaters 1 and 3? I don't know what to say about that. A lot of kids are really picky. Just cook around stuff that they like, sneak healthy stuff in. I pureed spinach and all sorts of healthy stuff into pretty much everything. They tend to eat anything that's frozen. Like I have what's that thing called? Or get a blender or whatever. You can make something frozen, like a treat. But yeah, all my stuff had spinach and all sorts of healthy stuff in it. So, and also don't have treats in the house. We didn't have any treats. We had no ice cream or cookies or chocolate or candy in our house. So if you do, they're going to hold out for that because it changes their taste buds. If they get a lot of sugar and salt and all preservatives and food colorings, it changes their taste buds. So yeah, my kids knew if they didn't eat their broccoli, there was no ice cream waiting for them. Plus I did cook around their taste. I knew what they liked and I was pretty careful with, I never wanted any battles, and I respect the fact that they have very sensitive palates. So I did cook around what they liked. But, you know, my cheese sauce had all sorts of ground cauliflower in it and all sorts of stuff. So I was very good at being sneaky. I hate cooking, but I'm really into nutrition. So I made everything from scratch and I hate cooking. That's why I never cook now. I'm 63 years old. I got no kids at home. I don't have to cook if I don't want. It's wonderful. Okay. I have an almost 3-year-old. We're potty training. He's great about sitting on the toilet. However, several times a day, he'll say, I need to go potty. He sits, then immediately wants to flush the toilet, pull the tissue. So in other words, he's playing on there. Get a little porta potty. There's no toilet to flush and there's no tissue to grab. So, and then just give him a book. Say, you really have to go? Here you go. And sit him on that little, I know it's gross, but yeah, that's what I would do. Or else I'd just be right there and say no. If he's 3, he said almost 3. Yeah, you can put on the behavior board, no goofing around on the toilet. So, and then there could be a consequence if he does. Or you can use incentives. Say, if you don't goof around, you get to watch this show. So there's, you know, an iPad or something. There's a million different ways of going about that. What do you do if they start to hit to get your attention during the tantrum? So that's when they're having a tantrum, they'll often hit, they'll even bite themselves. So you just say one calm no, and then you physically restrain them from being violent. You don't look at them or talk to them though. You just physically restrain. Let them go. If they go again, you know, if they start hitting again, then just physically restrain them again. So yeah, you just don't allow them to get violent when they're having a tantrum. And there's no punishment for that. During a tantrum, they've already lost their nut, so you can't punish for that. And you never discuss the tantrum before, during, or after. Never. Why would you? What's the point? I get child psychologists as clients sometimes, and they'll argue this. They'll say, you know, you got to validate all their feelings and emotions. No freaking way am I validating a loss of emotional control at not getting their own way. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to validate everything. Yeah. They're just mad because they didn't get their own way. You don't need to validate that. And all these mini therapy sessions discussing this, it makes things worse. Well, you asked a question here, and I have no context around it. How do you deal with hyper-independence? I have no idea. So you've got a 12-year-old who does their homework on their own? Is that what you're talking? Like, I don't know what you mean by that. So you have to give me context. Okay, any ideas for keeping 3 and 5-year-olds sitting at the table during mealtime? Yeah, I call it mealtime battles. Just have a mealtime routine written on the behavior board, and you say, follow mealtime routine. At the bottom of the behavior board, write down the mealtime routine. You come to the table within 5 minutes of being asked to do so. You don't get up from the table, no toys or screens at the table. And when you leave the table, when you're all done, you ask permission, can I leave? I'm all done, can I leave? Or whatever. So you just have a whole routine written out. They're 3 and 5 years old, they can understand that. And then you don't say much during them breaking the rules. You just kind of let them break the rules. And then you might say, okay, well then no TV tonight, or no screens tonight, or something like that. You can do a million different ways you can do that. But make sure there's a consequence. We all learn through consequences. Us adults learn through consequences. We pay our taxes because we don't want to go to jail. We pay our mortgage because we don't want it to be foreclosed on. You see what I'm saying? Consequences are what makes the world go round. Right? We put on sunscreen so we don't get a sunburn. You know what I mean? Everything we do is sort of a consequence attached to it. The sooner you teach this to your children and make them responsible for their own actions, the better. You're doing them a favor by doing this. Okay, what time is it? Okay. I have no idea what that means. Recent DX with my ADHD son having an outburst, hitting, cursing. Well, I don't know how old they are, and I don't know what son is 4. I don't know what a DX is. I'm not going to bother looking it up. Sounds like something too confusing for me. So I don't know. And by the way, whenever someone says they've got ADHD, those are all the kids I learned this with. Everything I talk about applies to, diagnosis. Everything I talk about applies to ADHD, WXYZ. ODD isn't a real thing, by the way. It's just made up. That's oppositional defiant disorder. Doctors made that up to make moms feel better about themselves so they don't take the blame for their children, which is a disaster. That means they also don't take responsibility. It's the same thing. If your kid's acting up, take full responsibility, take the blame. It's all your fault. Take it that way, because that way you're going to fix it, right? Yeah, it's just absolving parents of responsibility for setting their kids straight and teaching them how to be respectful. So yeah, I learned all this through all the kids with ADHD. That's mostly who I worked with. So don't treat it like it's a disability. It's not. ASD is more of a disability. Depends where they are on the spectrum, though, where they are. So, but yeah, that's more coaching. I don't generalize with autism. The behavior board's above. Okay, it takes about 30 minutes to arrive. I get all these emails. I didn't get my behavior board yet. I delete them all because I'm assuming you just haven't waited. Not that you would know to wait, but anyways, just a third-party delivery system. It takes 15 to 30 minutes to arrive in your inbox. Jeffrey on YouTube says, can I put not listening to mommy, something I can use on the behavior board? No, you know what you're saying? Be a perfect child. That's ridiculous, because are you earning their respect? They don't listen to a non-leader. Why should they? Okay, you got to earn that respect. You get their respect and they will listen. It happens organically. Just put actions on there, like stop hitting or make your bed every morning, something like that. So it has to be an action. But yeah, you're basically saying, I don't want to earn your respect. You just listen to me anyway. You see what I mean? It makes no sense at all. You got to earn that respect. People just demand it. You can't demand it. You got to command it. Set yourself up as a leader. Everything I talk about is leadership based. Leaders are fun. They make kids feel good about themselves. Check out the pool story. It's called The Example of Leadership Parenting. I think it's the first video here on Facebook. I know it is on Instagram and TikTok. I actually went in and put it there myself, but my daughter does all my social media, so I don't know where it is here. It's called Example of Leadership Parenting, and it's the pool story. It explains what leadership's all about. I deal with bad behavior, then I focus on the good kid. My goal, when kids are with me, my goal is that they like themselves when they're with me. They have pride in themselves when they're with me. Therefore, they want to please me, or when they're teenagers, they just wouldn't want to disappoint me because they feel good about themselves. Leaders make other people feel good about themselves, not good about them. I mean, that happens organically, but that's not your goal. Your goal, no one wants to be impressed. People go out there to impress people all the time. It's just so stupid. People don't want to be impressed. They just want to have fun. Don't try and impress your kids either. Just be fun. Fun is their love language. Okay, deal with bad behavior, then be fun. I've known so many people who, I probably shouldn't say this. Maybe you're like this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'm very into. My mother used to say, she was my idol. I just adored my mother. She used to say, nobody wants to be impressed. They just want to have fun. So whenever someone's talking about the latest label they're wearing, the fancy car they're driving, I'm like, okay, they got nothing underneath that. The people who have something going on for themselves don't need that. So I always tried to teach my kids that. Don't be showy. It's just, those are the insecure people. Those are the least impressive people in the world, are the ones who have the biggest show, right? I remember years and years ago, I went to this event and there was all these flashy people at this event, right? And everyone was trying to impress each other. And, they all had their elevator pitches and that. And there was this one older man just standing there. And he was very, he almost looked like a street person. I just knew this guy had something going for him. He was a billionaire, very, very, and he was so not showy. I beelined it for him. I just knew this guy, not because he had money that I was impressed, but this guy had smarts and he knew he knew who he was. And I just beelined it over to him. I just knew that's someone who I'd like to talk to. And all these flashy people, they all probably are in debt and everything. This guy, I just knew he was quality. He knew what he was doing. So yeah, watch out for people like that. I taught my kids that too. Never be impressed by flash. The showier the person, the less they got going on. Guaranteed, 100%. Learning to change from having young kids and teens to young independent women ages 21 to 27. So in other words, you're learning from them. Is that what you're saying, Francina Grant? Learning to change from having young kids. Oh, I see. You're learning how to change your parenting. It changes hugely. I always say I'm mom before I'm anything, but I was always friends with my kids. I was the goofy, crazy parent. I was just a nutcase. But they knew if they ever stepped a toe out of line, I would have gone, excuse me? Like, I had the look, right? Mom's look. But yeah, yeah, you can be fun, but yeah, you have to change with your kids. You have to respect the fact they're growing and growing more independent. And plus, I never really told my kids what to do. And someone said, a client asked me, because I've got a granddaughter now. My son's 34. He's got a baby now. And someone said, oh, are you going to tell them what to do? And I'm like, I don't even think we've met. Like I just would never tell them what to do. It's none of my business. And as soon as you start telling other people how to run their lives, you're insulting them. Like, in other words, I know better. And maybe they'll do a better job than I did. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I would never offer. If they asked, I might say, well, I don't know, what I would do is this, but it's none of my business how they parent. I'm sure they'll do a great job. Okay, my son this is probably something I can't answer. Oh, shoot, I'm going to be late about the cochlear implants. But I can't answer that because I got to go. I got to move over to Instagram now. Check out the link above. You'll see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can look into coaching. And there's a queue for coaching, a wait list, because I'm really busy these days. If I don't answer your coaching emails or messages, it's because I don't have any spaces for you right now. Anyway, I got to run. Going over to Instagram now. It's Bratbusters Parenting, and I'm on YouTube the whole time. That's where I save all my lives. Happy parenting. Okay. Welcome. Everyone turns up in one big group on Instagram. I don't know why that is. Why is it the only platform that happens? Hola. I watch Benita Larson. She's in Sweden, I guess. She always says that. Hola. I love her content. She does minimalism and it's very organized. Canada. I'm from Canada. I'm in Vancouver. I forgot why I followed you. What is your content about? Oh, mystery. You'll just have to wait and see. Oh, I guess now I'm going to tell you anyway. Anyway, if you're new here, welcome. If not, welcome back. My name is Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you look in the link above, you'll see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can look into coaching. I have a wait list for coaching. If I don't get to you right away, it's because I just don't have spaces for you right now. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I'm just here answering questions. If you have any, go ahead. I do specialize in teenagers and crisis work, but that's not what comes up most of the time. It's usually about toddlers on here. And I'm also always answering questions about discipline, but discipline is a tiny part of leadership. 99.9% of leadership is connecting with your kids, making them feel good about themselves, okay? So you want them to like themselves when they're with you. You want to connect with them, play with them. Fun is their love language. With teenagers, it's humor. It's not their only love language, by the way. But yeah, as a parent, use a lot of humor with teenagers. I was just coaching someone. No, I can't tell that story. Some stories are too specific. I don't like to tell them, but some of them are really general. Oh, I'm going to tell you a funny story. I had a client a couple of days ago, and this is so funny. This is just yesterday. 4.5-year-old little boy. And the mom, they said, I'm really into timers. You time them. If they have to do a chore, you time it. So they had that timer going, and that little kid had fiddled with the timer to give himself more time. But he was smart. Like most kids wouldn't do that, actually. But he was smart. He didn't do it too much because it would be obvious. He just did it like by a few minutes. So the parents picked up on it. I thought that was so cute. Kids are a riot. Yeah, he does a lot of stuff like that. He's a sneaky little guy. It's a lot of fun. Well, for me, not for the parents. My 26-month-old screams, I'm stuck in the car seat. I'm losing my mind. Well, that's why they keep doing it, because it's driving you nuts. Put some earphones in and sing. Okay, but sing quietly. Don't try and out-scream them. And I would also make sure they can see the side of your face. I know this sounds kind of weird, but If you're just facing forward singing, you want them to see you looking around, you kind of look, but don't look at them, but looking, singing, I don't know any songs, but anyway, I don't know any lyrics. I'm one of those. I don't know any lyrics, and I'll sing them all wrong anyway if I try. Okay. How do I start over parenting? My older kids are 8 and 10. It's not too late. Teenagers, it's hard. But yeah, it's doable, but it's hard. 8 and 10, they're still quite young, right? They're tiny. Check out my boot camp course. That might be a really good fit for you. It's 5 weeks, teaches you how to set yourself up as a leader. Summer's a really good time to do that because you got more time with them, right? Okay. Love your stuff, Lisa. Thank you. You're very welcome. I'm pining. I'm grieving for something today. I sold my overlocker, a serger. It's a sewing machine. I've had it forever. And I sold it today because I might upgrade, or anyway, I just decided I need something a bit more robust because I make a lot of heavy bags and stuff. And isn't that weird that because I look after everything, like I've all my furniture I've had for like 35 years. I mean, I just look after everything. So that when I sell something, I grieve for. Isn't that weird? I'm grieving for my overlocker. What the heck? It's bizarre. I don't know why I'm like that. I'm very fussy. I like to look after all my things. So when I give it up, I always think, I hope they look after it. I think that's what it is. It's an overlocker. It's a sewing machine. I don't think it cares. Okay. Just thought I'd throw that in there to let you know that I'm nuts too. We all have our crazy stuff. Can you use a sleep method for 2 kids at a time, 4 and 2-year-old? Yes, you can. But if they're in the same room, it's really difficult. You can do it, but there's got to be 2 of you and you got to be in for a wild night. So psych up for it. And don't drink when you're doing it. I got a really funny story about that. I usually tell in coaching. Just don't feel like telling it right now. But parents who decide to drink through the process didn't go very well. So yeah, so if they're in the same room, it's very difficult. But if they're not, you can do it. I'm scrolling ahead to make sure you're still here when I answer your questions. So I do skip through. I get hundreds of questions in here. I can't answer them all. Someone just said, thank you for answering me. You're amazing. Thank you. Consequences for 4 and 7-year-olds who don't use iPads. Oh, so they've got no screens, in other words. So you just take away a favorite toy, or you can invent leverage. Say tonight we were going to go out for ice cream, but we had a bad day today, so no ice cream. We might go tomorrow night if we have a better day. I got a million different ideas for that, but that's just one. So you can invent leverage. Tell them that you were going to do something, but now you're not. You're taking it away. You're taking away something that never was. Okay. I don't like doing that. The thing is, if kids aren't used to being accountable, okay, they're not used to being accountable, this is a real slap in the face for them. Like if you've given in to everything and, okay, we were going to go out for ice cream, but okay, we'll go. And then all of a sudden you actually follow through and you start becoming a leader. It's going to be hard for them and you. It always gets hard. It depends. The more of a pleaser you were before, the harder it's going to be for everybody, but it's worth it. The old-fashioned authority-style parent was not a bad way to parent. It worked, but they did rebel in the teen years, but they shot out the other end just fine, and they appreciated what their parents did for them. The new fashion about 40 years ago, I call it the pleaser parent style, and it started with participation awards. Stupidest thing I ever heard of. I couldn't believe it when I heard that. Like just yesterday, I was at the supermarket. I turned up, I participated, no one gave me an award. Talk about raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. Anyway, that was 40 years ago, and I can remember saying, boy, we're in for it. I remember saying that we are in for it. So, and here we are, all these woke victims always looking for a reason to be victims. And that's mental health. If I hear that one more time, people throw around, there is real mental health issues out there, but people throw that around just to make themselves look like a victim. And there's not much you can say. Well, I've got mental health issues. What can you say to that? Like it's a passive aggressive way of getting sympathy. It's really frustrating. I see it all the time. And that's what you're raising if you're raising with the pleaser style parent. Trying to roll out the red carpet for them, making everything easy for them, not making them accountable, being afraid of upsetting them, making sure they get participation awards just for breathing, all that stuff. It's a total disaster. They wipe their feet all over you. They never respect you. They rebel right through the little years, the teen years, and they grow up in there. It's just a disaster. I'm exaggerating, of course. I'm just trying to get my point across. What do you mean by toddlers in leadership? That's not typical. What do you mean by toddlers in leadership? That's not typical. Toddlers, you're investing in tomorrow because they're not going to learn. They are watching you though. They are picking up on your energy. They know that you know what you're doing. A good example of that was me and my husband. He was more the pleaser and I was the leader. I had lots of, and it's often the way it is. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. Like my mom was the leader. My dad was the pleaser. But there was a big difference in when we changed the kids. You know, when they get the crocodile phase and they start spinning on the change table, they didn't do that very often with me because they knew my arm went across their chest and I said, I'm going to change your diaper. And I changed it fast. Okay. Their dad, on the other hand, okay, what if I let you down? You pick up a toy that you want, then I'll try and it was just a battle, right? So yeah, they kind of learned from a very young age, when I said something, it was going to happen. And they were more likely to go along with it. When their dad said something, they weren't sure if it was going to happen, right? They might be able to talk them out of it. So leadership, even with toddlers, but they're a slow burn. They're not going to learn the first 20 times that you use consistent corrective actions with them. They'll probably learn the 50th time because they learn through repetition, repetition, repetition. So, but then by the age of 3, they're able to stop and think before they act. That's why the behavior board starts at the age of 3. They need to be able to understand you take this action, then this is the consequence for it. They can put it together. Under that, toddlers are just crazy, but you can manage their environment. There's things you can do. So I'm going to read my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3, enter their world to connect with them. Don't connect with a 3-year-old at the nail salon. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Number 4 is kind of similar. When you want to discipline a toddler, you do so in their world. Okay, their world is actions, not words. So you use consistent corrective actions over and over and over again, very, very consistently, and they will eventually learn. Don't do these mini therapy sessions discussing all the big feelings and big emotions. It's absolute garbage. That was invented to make the mom feel good. She feels like she looks like a good mom when she's doing that out in public, especially. And I'm watching it going, what a disaster. It's just awful. Because that's for you. That's not for them. They're not listening. They're watching. Okay. And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years and for the first year you were a potato laying on a mattress. Like, yeah, they're just not there yet. I always call them crazy. They just haven't developed sanity yet. Their brain's just really fresh, right? Brand new. Please help. My 5-year-old begs. I say no. She persists and says please over and over again. That's a learned behavior. You've taught her to do that. There's past the age of 4, they only do what works. It says to me that she can eventually break you down and she knows it. So I would just say to, she's 5 years old. And I said, if you keep coming at me, we'll make your consequence worse. So once you've said no to something, say, I'll tell you what, you keep coming at me, there'll be a consequence. Check out the behavior board and have a consequence for continuous begging. I would put that. It's not so much in the attitude department because an attitude is a little bit more of a subtle thing, but this constant begging, say, if you constantly beg, once I've said no, don't keep begging. And if you do, there's a consequence. So she can do whatever she wants. We're never really trying to stop kids from doing things. We want them to learn how to stop themselves from doing things. So that's why you add a consequence if she keeps begging. You keep at me, there'll be a consequence. Please, please. Okay, no TV tonight. That was your choice. That's how I do it. I would never use a behavior board. It's a teaching tool. Don't start just doing what I just said. That's sort of next level. Look at the behavior board and have a consequence for repeated begging after she's been told no. That's not in the attitude department. That would be more of an action. Best way to parent a 7-year-old boy with ADHD. I don't know how to tell you this, but ADHD is not a disability. Those are all the kids I learned this with. Don't treat them like they're different. The problem with ADHD is it's just sort of treated like it's almost like an excuse to have a kid that's out of control. And yeah, I know they are more challenging, but you can still do this. Leadership I learned all this with those kids. My kids didn't have it, but all the kids I worked with, I never once ever got handed an easy kid to work with. Not once, not ever. No one ever said to me, here's an easy one, Lisa. They all went, good luck with this one. They were all ADHD, WXYZ. I call them alphabet kids, okay? They were all challenging kids. This stuff worked with them. So, yeah. ADHD means nothing to me. What if they have ADHD? So, it's not a disability. It's not. Autism is more of a disability, depending on where they are in the spectrum. That would be coaching. But yeah. It's interesting because ADHD, it's almost treated like it's like a disability. It's weird, but it was always around. It was just it was just the more wild kids. It was always out there. It's just the wilder kids. They just take a little bit more patience and time. That's all. Two-year-old cries at night for us to sleep with her. Okay, check out the Bedtime Battles course. It's one of my mini toddler courses. Everything I have is in the link above, and it's called Bedtime Battles. And it's a really good one. I like that course. Actually, I like all my courses. No, I don't. I don't like the hitting one. The hitting one, I just hate the name of it. Toddlers who hit and bite or something. It's so dumb. What did I call it? Yeah, toddlers hitting and biting. I just can't stand the name of that course. Anyway, I love my Bedtime Battles course. Check it out. It's 2 to 8 years old. I know that's a wide range. So they just have to be out of a cot. They have to be able to get out of bed. Never lock a child in a room unless they're dangerous, like unless they can sneak out and turn on the stove or something. Okay, all kids, ADHD is grouped in with all kids. They're not different. They're just a little bit more challenging. ADHD is, and often children without ADHD are more challenging because they're more defiant or stubborn. So yeah, don't treat it like they're different. I know whenever I worked with kids, they'd often tell me, "Hi, I'm Johnny. I have ADHD." It's like part of their identity. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Just treat them like they're just normal kids. I've got a lot of opinions on that, and I'm not sharing them here because it's not popular. It would not be popular. You wouldn't like it. But yeah, ADHD is not a disability. Used to bother me when obviously I'm going to talk about it. My mouth and my brain have no relationship. I have no filter. Anyway, when I worked with kids and they'd tell me, "Oh, and I have ADHD and WXYZ, whatever," they'd tell me, I always thought, how sad. How sad that a kid would introduce himself with a diagnosis. I could see if he had seizures or something and I needed to know that. But I always thought that was sad. I said, I don't care if you got, and then I'd say, I've got WXYZ. No, that's not what I used to say. Oh, I used to call, oh God, I forgot this. When I was introduced to older kids and they'd say, "Oh, and I've got ADHD and ODD," and I just thought that was so sad. I think I can't remember exactly what I say. My name's Lisa and I have FLS. They'd say, "What's that?" And I said, "Foxy Lady Syndrome." Really? What's that? Oh, yes, it's yeah, I think that's what I used to call it. Oh, I've forgotten about that. Oh God, that was years and it just said FLS. That cracked me up. I'm not sure that was it. Oh, that was funnier than that. Maybe that's all it was. Foxy Lady Syndrome. So yeah, whenever they introduced themselves with an acronym, I made sure I had an acronym too. Don't label your children. Any advice on 14-year-old that does polar opposites? They sound normal to me unless they have a leader. If they have a leader, they don't do that. Okay, work on your leadership skills. I don't have a course for that. That you can check out the behavior board, call it an accountability chart. The secret to that with teenagers is you're on there too. Go in small with them and big with yourself. Okay, be hard on yourself and easy on them when you're starting this out. You're building the rapport, the relationship, the reciprocity with teenagers. I know whenever I'm hired to work with parents with teenagers, I say, we're not even going to get into their behavior until we've worked on your relationship. Your relationship is where it starts. It's your good relationship with your teenager does not come out of you being a good disciplinarian. Them respecting you is what comes out of you bonding with them. Your relationship comes first. When you've got younger children, you can work on discipline and your relationship synonymously, not with teenagers. You work on your relationship with them first, and then you can start to deal with the behavior, the attitude, and all that stuff. Love what you just said, just requires more patience and time. Yeah, quit labeling your kids. Jeez. Yeah, I feel sorry for those kids. "Hi, I'm Johnny. I have ADHD and ODD. I don't know why. It just broke my heart every time they'd say that to me. And they always did. They always did. I guess that's how they were introduced all the time. Like it was like absolving the parents of any responsibility for their behavior. Yeah. Anyway. What to do with a 4-year-old wetting herself daily? I don't know the context around that. I don't know why she's doing that. So I'd have to assess that. So yeah, but anyway, just setting up your leadership skills might help. Tends to calm children down, make them less stressed. Maybe it's stress. I don't know. So check out the boot camp course. That might be a good fit for you. It goes from 3 to 12 years old. When they're 3 to 12 years old, their behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting. Under that, they're just nuts anyway because they're toddlers. They're just forming. And teenagers, you want them to be more their own leaders, and you're there for backup for the big stuff. Okay. About 3 to 12 years old. That's why the boot camp course, I know 3 is very different from a 12-year-old, but you're still at the height of your leadership in that age bracket. Oh, here it comes again. How do you deal with children with ADHD? They're not different. They're the same as every other child. They just take a little bit more time and patience. Lies a lot. Put down no lying on the behavior board. I'd start there. Say no lying. When you catch them in a lie, there's a consequence. Now, if you're shaming a child, like I had a client yesterday, and she said to me, she goes, as soon as I said it, I realized it was wrong. Her child had done something. I don't know. He lied about something. I can't remember. Actually, that was the same kid. He was funny. He's a funny little guy. I think he's actually very smart. Anyway, he'd done something. And the mother said, why would you do that? That's shaming. You don't do that. That's shaming. Never shame a child. There should be no shame in this. There should just be accountability. Say, well, look, you messed up. You did that. Here's the consequence. Okay. And that's it. Do you understand? And that's it. No shaming. So if they lie, say, oh, caught you in a lie. Here's the consequence. Don't say, why would you lie? You should always tell the truth. Don't do all that nagging and shaming. And they're just going to shut you out. They're not going to listen to anything you say if you start talking like that. Big mistake. Do you visit schools? I don't do any of that anymore. Everything I do now is online. I've done everything. I've done it all. Yeah, I used to do a lot of public speaking and that. It's just not worth my time. They can't pay me enough to make it worth my time anymore. So, and I don't want to do it traveling and getting stuck in traffic and I'll tell you, they'd have to pay me a lot to get me to do that now. I just don't do it anymore. I've done enough of that. I used to do a lot of TV and radio too, which was kind of fun. But nowadays it doesn't have the power it used to. So I don't see any point in doing that either. Yeah. What does it mean to mirror me? So mimicking, aping, that just means that they're copying you, like looking in a mirror. So how am I here? I don't know how you're here. Very existential. How are we all here? Where did it all begin? I don't know. Hello, Hawaii. I was only in Hawaii once. It's kind of a funny story. My kids and I were traveling from Australia, where they were born and raised. And we were traveling to Canada, where we live now. But we were there for like 20 years. And we were traveling, and we had a layover in Hawaii for 24 hours. So we waited in line. I don't know why I did this. It was so dumb because I was raised in Canada. So to me, Hawaii, I just had this in my mind that you got to see the beach and all that. Not realizing my kids were raised in the tropics, right? Anyway, I went to this nice restaurant. It was overlooking the beach, and we had to wait an hour to get a table overlooking the beach. You know what the three of us did? We sat with our backs to the beach. Why would we want to look at the beach when we came from Australia? It just struck me as funny. My Canadian mind went to, well, you should get a table on the balcony. It just struck me as so funny. I thought we never even looked at the water, not once. Why would we? Okay. What do you do if your child starts to be labeled with ADHD at 5 years old? I really got myself in a tailspin with this one, and I don't regret it. Nothing. That's like saying they have blue eyes. Like, it's just, don't treat it like it's anything terrible or negative. Don't treat it that way, because they're going to be labeling themselves like there's something wrong with them. Okay. Do you know what's interesting is a lot of adults who are hyper successful have ADHD. Imagine taking all that energy and using it for good. So don't treat it like a disability. Don't treat it like it's something negative. They pick up on this. That's why I always had funny, I always had a funny acronym after my name. Hi, I'm Johnny. I have ADHD. And I'd say, hi, I'm Lisa. I have FLS, Foxy Lady Syndrome or something. And they'd laugh, and I'd say, okay, so let's get to work. Like, don't make a deal out of that. It's making them feel bad. You just don't realize it. Neither do they right now. It will eventually bother them. Do I punish my 3.5-year-old when he hits and bites at preschool? Yep. Yep. You say no hurting others. And if the teacher tells me you have, there'll be a consequence. So put it on the behavior board. Check that out. Oh, what time is it? Ooh, I hate running late between social media platforms. I just want to thank you. I'm on Instagram, right? Yeah. I hit 400,000 here on Instagram a few days ago. And I just want to thank you for your support. It's just mind-boggling. I think I came on Instagram. I mean, I've been on here for years, but I never really posted. But I think I came on here last September or October, posting regularly. My daughter did that. And she's going to be working with me full-time soon. So, yeah, very excited. She's a whiz at all this stuff. I've had so many people say to me, who does your marketing? Who does your newsletters? It's all my daughter. She's all mine right now. Maybe one day she'll be able to branch out, but right now, yeah, she'll be working with me full-time. How exciting. And also, whenever people say to me, when are you going to write a book? I say, well, I asked my daughter, and she goes, no, not yet. She plans. She does all the business planning too. She's a real dynamo. Very lucky. Okay, which program of yours do you recommend for 3 to 12-year-old? That's my boot camp course. It's a 5-week course. It has videos in there, writing in there. And also I did some group coaching in there. It's only a one-off, and I threw it in there. All those videos with all those parents asking questions. I was actually group coaching them along the way. All those videos are in there too. You want to hear something funny is when I was doing those, it's all done on Zoom, group coaching. And when I don't do it anymore, but that was just a one-off to put it on the course and see how it was going. It's under a year old, that course. So I wanted to see how it was going. Anyway, and I had to put down in the Zoom, ask for permission to record this for marketing purposes. So it was like 1 minute before a coaching session after that group coaching was over. And I raced and I almost forgot to take that off. How humiliating if a private coaching client turned up and I said, can I use your coaching session for marketing purposes? Because, oh God, that would have been so embarrassing. Anyway, so yeah, check out the bootcamp course. It's got lots of stuff in there. Lots of people are having great success in there. If you're not, you might need coaching. There's something else going on. But usually if it's just the normal stuff that most people are going through, I always try and point people in the direction of the bootcamp course. It's got a whole bunch of reference material that you might not need today, but you might want to look at down the road. It's got a whole bunch of stuff in there. I needed to hear that one. Which one? Me going on about ADHD, don't make them feel bad about it. Yeah, it's overused. It's just talked about constantly. You know what you're kind of saying to your kid when you say it, and I know you don't mean it this way, but you're kind of saying, yeah, here's my child. He's flawed. That's the way they take it. They just interpret it, because I've worked with all those kids. I've worked with them all. Because I always said to them something like this, ADHD, aren't you lucky? Do you know most really successful rich people have ADHD? And they're like, really? You know, like, yeah, it's great. So it's because it's never said like, yippee, you know what I mean? It's always said like, oh, he has ADHD. Just watch that. I hear this all the time, and it's kind of frustrating because I know how it affects kids. Just be careful with that. I just bought your boot camp course. Can't wait to start it. Excellent. Yeah, a lot of people are getting success with that. You can't rush it, but you can extend it by a week or two. Don't lose momentum, though. You want to keep it going. You can do it on vacations and everything. If you're going away on vacation, then say something like, you have to put your shoes or sandals by the front door. If not, we're going to wait 5 minutes before we go down to the pool. That's how you would have a consequence. You never put a okay. If you're on vacation and you want to use a behavior board, the consequence is something like this. We were going to go to the pool at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, but instead we're going to go at 9:05. You just defer the time when you leave. You never leave early at the end, because then you're ruining the rest of the day. So it's only 5 minutes. You probably weren't going to leave right at 9 anyway. So that's how you do it. So you can still do it when you're away. Oops. Okay. Almost time to go to TikTok. Behavior board is a success here in my house. Oh, excellent. Happy to hear that. The behavior board is a tool that I invented like 16 years ago. I've been coaching for 17 years, but I was teaching what I do. I would never use a behavior board. So I never thought to use one, to make one up. Then I thought, what am I doing wrong here? People just aren't quite getting it. They were getting results, but nowhere near what I thought they should. You don't just teach what you do, you teach how people need to learn, right? So anyway, I was a year into my coaching business, and then I invented the behavior board and I put the parents on it too. It changed everything because I was trying to explain to parents how you have to be accountable. I'll tell you, if I messed up, my kids loved it. They had a voice, believe me. Mom, didn't you say you were going to do that and you forgot? I go, oh, shoot, what do you want? We'd love to go to the water slide park tomorrow. Like, they had a voice. I was accountable. I was very much a leader, but I was accountable. So it changed everything. It's just a way to teach you about leadership. You only use that for about 3 weeks, then you go off the behavior boards. You can keep going back to it. It's, to put something on there if you want, but overall, you don't need that after a while. You just use in the moment discipline, which is what I did. Also, when you go to in the moment discipline, you're not there yet if you're brand new, but in the boot camp course, you'll see this. And in coaching, we talk about this a lot. So in the moment discipline, you can defer the punishment. So if they act out in the car on the way to school, you say something like this: hey, I didn't like that. We'll discuss it later. And then that's it. That's called deferred punishment. It gives them time to sweat, and you time to think about what you're going to do. So then if they say, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Not fair. And say, you keep coming at me, I'll make it worse. So you see what I mean? Just take control. So you don't have to discipline, right? You address the bad behavior in the moment, but you deal with it when you're able to. So, okay, I'm going to go over to TikTok now. If you want to join me over there, it's Bratbusters Parenting. And if, pardon me, if not, check out my link above. You can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can look into coaching. If I'm not answering your emails, it's because I'm super busy and there's a queue, there's a lineup, a wait list for coaching. So I'll just answer it when I have time, when I can let you into coaching. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. Happy parenting, and I'm heading over to TikTok. Bye now. Oh, that's a lot of buttons to push. So I just have to take a break going from one platform to another because my voice starts to give out after a while. The coaching is, I'll coach all day, but there's back and forth. With these lives, it's just me talking for an hour and a half, and I don't know how to pace my voice out to make it last better. Evidently, it's a way of doing that. Singers know how to do that, and I ain't no singer, that's for sure. I always wanted to be able to sing, knowing full well I can't. I have one note I can hit, and that's about it. Okay. How to get a 2-year-old to share toys when you get a sibling. So they got a little baby. You don't really teach a 2-year-old how to share. You can teach them how not to grab toys. But yeah, that's just a slow burn kind of thing. They're just going to have to learn. But you got to watch them. And every time they grab a toy, you say no, and you take it away from them and give it back to the baby. But they don't really learn how to share until they're about 3. Yeah. They can just learn not to grab stuff. Some of them will share because it's a bit of a game. They don't care if they have that toy. But if they care if they have that toy, they won't give it up. Generally, unless they know there's a consequence and you're going to come in and take it. But yeah, it's just a slow burn. Toddlers there's nothing wrong with them. They're just crazy. I mean, they're just learning. Parents have way too many high expectations for toddlers and teenagers. That's why those are the 2 most challenging ages. It's because your expectations are completely out of whack. So yeah, I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parents. Oh, first of all, I'll introduce myself. If you're new here, welcome. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. I'm on here pretty much every day for a couple of years now. But I'm still getting new people coming in. So anyway, if you check out the link above, you'll see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can look into coaching. I've got a big wait list for coaching. I'll get to you when I have spaces open. Okay. I just have a wait list right now. I don't know how much longer I'll be coaching because there's so many things I want to do in my business. And I just coach all day, basically. So yeah, anyway, I do love coaching. It's my favorite thing. I had a question. How do I avoid becoming an authoritative mother when I'm disciplining my 2.5-year-old? Basically, be a lot of fun, play with them. And when you make a mistake, you own it. Okay, say, oh, sorry, I yelled at you. That wasn't very nice. Now here, I'm going to play a game with you. Okay, you got to be accountable. They're not listening to you. They're watching you. If you're accountable, they're more likely to be accountable. Like, there's no way I would expect my kids to be perfectly behaved and yet I'm yelling and screaming. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But parents do this all the time. They expect way more from their kids than they do from themselves. It's quite fascinating, actually. Well, for me anyway. But yeah, it's quite interesting. So yeah, just be accountable and play. Their love language is play and fun. I worked my butt off to get respect with kids, but I started with connecting with them. I didn't start with discipline. I start with connecting, playing with them in their world. You watch how they play and you join in. How do you know which behaviors to ignore and which behaviors to correct for a 16-month-old? You have to give me some examples. You always correct hitting. And the others you try to manage, like child-proof your home, have a toy rotation system going. You more about managing it. And you keep them busy. You always look like you have something up your sleeve. My mom was very good at entertaining me. She had this, gosh, she was so good at this. She had this cupboard that she'd go into. And I guess every time she'd go grocery shopping, she'd buy something little. Back in the day, they used to have this thing that you could draw on and pick the plastic up and it would disappear and you put it back down, you draw. I remember they were just cheap little things, but she always had a cupboard full of them. So whenever I was getting a bit squirrely, she'd go, oh, let me look in the cupboard. Oh, I'd be going nuts. What you got? What you got? What you got? And she would drag it out. Oh, now let me see. No, that's no good. No, what have I got here? So she always sort of had something to entertain me with. It's not like you have to entertain them all the time, but Mom was very good at knowing when I was going to get squirrely, and she would go and pull something out. So yeah, I would get an activity going when they're naughty. You're always kind of meeting their needs and managing their wants. Part of their needs is fun and being active and doing stuff. Doesn't mean you have to be doing it with them all the time, but you have to provide them with things to do. So a lot of times they're just bored. That's why they're acting out. I don't talk about that enough. That's important. A lot of kids act out just because they're bored. Doesn't mean you have to be doing stuff with them, but you have to have stuff for them to do. By the way, you can throw a child in the middle of a toy room with a million toys in it. They'll be more bored than if you sit them at a kitchen table with some Play-Doh. Get them focused on one thing. It's the parents tend to throw toys at them, but you got to rotate them, okay? And you got to have activities. We used to have, in Australia where I raised my kids, they had toy libraries. And it was only the big book libraries that had it because they had the space for it. And they would have a toy library. And it was all free. You just go around the back. It was down this basement shed-like area. And you'd sign out a toy. It would be a big ride on Fisher's Price. I mean, they were big ones. They weren't little things. They were big. So it'd be like those slides. You had to have like a van or something to put this stuff in. Or it would just be like a dollhouse or one of those little garages. And so, yeah, you'd sign it out. You'd get it for 2 or 3 weeks, and I'd take it back. So that's why my kids didn't have very many toys. And plus, it was Australia. We were outside a lot. And plus, I made a lot of Play-Doh and did creative stuff with noodles, gluing noodles down with flour and water. And, I did a lot of activities with kids. And but, yeah, that toy library, if you don't have one where you are, go to a church or something and tell them to get that going. They love community stuff like that. Go to the community center, go to the library, say, you get a toy library system going. It'd be great. Parents are usually especially in churches and that, they're very willing to donate all the toys they're not using anymore. So it'd be great to get that going. You could start that. And you can get your kids the most fascinating thing and they'll still get bored with it. They like to look at new stuff. Okay, so that's why I was always changing stuff around all the time. You said, I'm adopted. My parents talk to me about it all the time. Yeah, I was adopted. And I can remember I was probably 2 or 3. I was really little. I can remember this like it was yesterday. My mom was gardening. We had a big yard. And I was sitting on this giant boulder and watching my mom garden and chatting away. Kids just chatting at my mom, poor mom. Anyway, and then she stopped working and she goes, you love your little baby, don't you? I had a doll with me. And it was funny the way she looked at me. She looked at me like it was a serious conversation. Yes. She goes, you love your baby doll. And I says, yes. She goes, you adopted that baby. You know how sometimes babies are in mommy's tummies? You weren't in my tummy. She wasn't in your tummy either. You chose her. She's special. And that's why you're so special, because we chose you. Anyway, I grew up thinking that being adopted made me holier than thou and than every other kid. I thought that being chosen was better than just being had. And one night, I was probably about 5 or 6, and all the neighborhood moms were calling my mom. And they all said, Lillian, can you please tell Lisa to tell our children that they're no worse than that they're good, that they're wanted too, just because they were had. Because I was telling them all that I was more wanted because I was chosen. So mom realized she'd overshot. So I always grew up thinking being adopted was great. I still do. So yeah, I loved it. Yeah, and I never saw my birth family as being any connection because connections are usually based on emotions and time with someone, right? And I never had that with them. So to me, I never felt any connection to my blood relatives. But I did find someone. It was a cousin of my mother, I think it was, and she told me a couple of things that made sense. She said two things. She said, I've got very light green eyes, and she goes, that's a family trait. And also, she goes, I'm in my 60s. And she goes, and you're not gray. You don't color your hair, do you? And I said, no. And she goes, we don't go gray. So, because everyone thinks I color my hair. I'm 63 years old, but I don't. And she goes, yeah, we don't go gray. So that was kind of interesting because I've never had that connection before that. You know what I mean? Like knowing, because it was weird that I had no gray hair. So anyway, so it was kind of fun just to learn that couple of things and why my eyes are so light and why I don't go gray. I keep talking about ADHD. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. It's not a special thing. It's not a disability. They're just kids with that diagnosis just need a little bit more time and patience. That's all. Those are all the kids I work with. So yeah, I don't want to single them out anymore because they get upset by that. They don't like it. Literally fighting with my 2-year-old to stay in bed as we speak. Help. Yeah, well, I'm not coming over there and helping you. But what I will tell you is I have a course called Bedtime Battles, and it goes from 2 to 8 years old. It's in 2 parts, how to get them in bed, then how to keep them there. And so they can't be in a crib. They have to be able to get up. And it's usually one night of hell. It might filter into a second night or in a third night, but it's usually just one. The worse that first night is, the less likely they are to ever get up again. So yeah, it's hell, but it's worth it. It's called Bedtime Battles. I named it Battles for a reason. It is a battle. I got a funny story about it. I just don't feel like telling it. I've told it 20,000s of times. Well, there's no context around this, but I'll just read it out. Maybe you'll ask in a better way that I can understand it. It says, how do you get a 3-year-old to respond to questions instead of repeating the question? Well, what's the question? So, you know, do you know about autism, kids, and sleep? No, I don't know specifically about it. I cannot generalize with autism. I've worked with so many kids with autism, and they're different. So, there's no blanket statements with autism, I've found. They're all a bit different. They do have some similar qualities, sometimes stemming, repetition, sensory issues, but those are often different, even, so yeah. I only discuss autism in private coaching. Where can I find all these courses? Everything I have in my business is linked above. There's one link, and it's my Podia link. It's a platform where I have all my courses and my information that goes to my coaching from my website. Be very careful if you're ever searching for me online, because there's a lot of people out, because I've got like a lot of over 1 million followers now. And of course, you're going to get scammers out there. There's a whole bunch of people out there using my videos, my name, everything. It's just frustrating, but there's nothing I can do about that. You close one account down. If you do see that and it's not me, because it's only Bratbusters Parenting, that's me, or Bratbusters with a plural, Bratbusters with a plural, .com, not .ca, not .net, .com. Anyway, if you do see someone, just report them and they'll get shut down. They'll start up another account somewhere else. So just be careful. That link here is me. Any question I ask him, he just repeats what I ask. What's wrong? He repeats it. So you say, why are you asking what's wrong? Like, I'm wondering, there's a communication thing going on. If it was to his benefit to not do that, he wouldn't do it. I'd get more clever than him. I'd think it through. I'm trying to think of an example. I can't think of an example. If he won't answer a question, I would probably just walk away. But yeah, I don't know. I know I'd use humor with that. I'd use sarcasm. I just know I would. But I don't know. I'd need an example, specific question that you would ask. What's your secret to not get gray hair? It's evidently genetic. So it's just genetic. I just found that out a few years ago because I'm adopted, and I just found out from a birth relative. And they said, no, we don't go gray. So interesting, eh? I don't know if I'd color anyway. I never want to look young. I'm super into fitness. I want to look healthy and fit, but I never wanted to look young. So, but you know what I've noticed too, just because it's going to hit you too one day, is like I'm 63 now, and there's that bell curve in life. Well, I'm slipping down the other side fast. I have to work out twice as hard to look half as good. And it's not frustrating at all. I mean, I'm grateful I can still work out. But yeah, I really noticed, in other words, I'm never going to look better than I do today. Isn't that interesting? Whereas before I was always striving to look better, and now I know there's no point. Which strikes me as kind of interesting. There's no point. This is as good as I'm going to get now. I'm slipping down the other side. I love being in my 60s. I wouldn't trade it. Okay. Okay, I've got a very interesting comment for you, for me. I think it's interesting. You might not. User blah, blah, blah says, I want my kids to see the best version of myself. I would rephrase that. I want my kids to see the best version of themselves. Don't focus on you, focus on them. I want them to like themselves. I want them to see the best in themselves, not you. Like, don't try and impress your kids. That's like no one wants to be impressed. They just want to have fun. Yeah, you want them to see the best version of themselves rather than you. I always say your aim isn't for you to get them to like you. Your aim is for you to get them to like themselves. Then they will like you in turn. That just happens organically. But yeah, your goal is for them to have high self-esteem, like themselves. And if you're the source of them liking themselves, they're going to treat you great, right? Think about it this way. A leader is like a mentor. They look up to you. They want to please you, or at the very least, they don't want to disappoint you when they're teenagers. So I've worked with lots of delinquent, troubled teenagers, and I know I treat them with respect. I don't take any crap though. I treat them with respect, and they like themselves when they're with me. I think the nicest compliment I ever got was a teenager I worked with who said, I didn't like myself until I met you. I think that was probably the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. I didn't like myself until I met you. Wow, powerful, eh? So yeah, your goal should be for them to like themselves, not you. They will like you anyway if you're good at this, but so switch that. Yeah, best version of themselves. Yeah. Someone said, wow, but you are lucky. You look 49 to 50. Thank you. That's a very nice compliment. I'm a gluten-free health food vegan. I work out every single day. I'm a positive thinker. I put a lot of work into my health and my fitness, a lot. So yeah, there is some luck in genetics and not going gray, yes. But the rest of it, I work really hard at looking after myself. So yeah, and I never want to look young. I just want to look, I want people to say, wow, she looks fit. She looks healthy. She looks happy, all that stuff. Because you can control that throughout your life if you're lucky, unless you have, some physical health issues. But yeah, I always told my kids, I said, there's nothing more important than your health and your attitude and all that. So I've worked really hard at all that, and I love it. I met someone recently. This was interesting, and I just met her in a cafe. We just, sitting beside each other, just got chatting, and she was a bigger woman, and she asked me how, I stay so fit, and I said, I work at it. I work out every day, and I'm a gluten-free health food vegan. And I always throw the health food vegan in there because I'm not looking for vegan donuts or anything. So anyways, and she goes, well, what do you do on cheat days? And that question just threw me off. Like you wouldn't believe. I said, what do you mean cheat days? As if I'm not enjoying my lifestyle? Like as if I need a break from this? I love it. I love this lifestyle. Like I don't need a break from it. A cheat day. It just struck me as the funniest thing. Because to her, she saw this as torture. And to me, I love it. I love this lifestyle. But it just struck me as funny. Do you have a course on your lifestyle? No, but I do talk about fitness and all the stupid things I do. I do a lot of dumb things. Stupid. Yeah, I do have a personal TikTok, but it's not, I don't go on there very often. And it's more for my future grandchildren to see. But no, I don't teach my lifestyle. Just go to the gym and look after yourself. It's self-love. If you look after your health and your body and your fitness, that's the ultimate form of self-love, is to put yourself first and to look after yourself. When you've got kids, my kids always came first, but I hauled my kids to the gym every day. They were in that gym daycare Monday through Friday until they were old enough to go to kindy. But yeah, so they were hauled off to the gym every day. Funny thing is, they're both really into fitness now. They're 34 and 29. They grew up seeing mom working out. And their dad's pretty into fitness now too, and my ex-husband. So they saw that, pretty healthy household, and you want to do that for your kids too. And also, I'm a pretty positive person. You can get through a lot in life if you've got humor and a positive attitude. Like, I'm always trying to look for the positive. I'm always trying to look for solutions. Like, if I've got a problem in my life or something I want to fix, I'm always trying to educate myself on how to make it better. I don't like to wallow in self-pity. We all do at times. We're all human, right? But overall, I really like to I like to be proactive in my life and really try and take control as much as possible, but I try to teach my kids that too. Neither one of them are whiners or complainers. Yeah, so. Okay, I got to get going now. Thanks so much for joining me. If you check out my link above, you can see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can look into coaching. I'm not answering my coaching emails right now, messages from me right now, because I don't have any spaces open. Tonight, I think I've got a couple open tonight, so I might look into that. But you're in a wait list. But I also like to pick and choose ages. And if you're going through a crisis or you're a past client who's coming back to me, you get first pick. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me, and I'll be back again. I don't know when. Today's Thursday. Hopefully sometime tomorrow. Okay, happy parenting. Bye now.